Thank you very much. First of all, on behalf of Association Pro Refugio, the coordinator of the Rejust project, I would like to thank all those who are present online today, speakers and participants. This event is an opportunity to present and discuss about strategies and actions that can enhance cooperation, referral for assistance, and access to information for victims of crime. I hope that as a result of today's discussion and learnings, there will be tangible improvements for victims and survivors of crime, as well as increased efforts to prevent re-victimization of victims. Next, I would like to present a few information about our Rejust project, which started its implementation in January 2020 with the financial support of the Justice Program of the European Union. The project has as overall objective to ensure that victims' rights, as stipulated in the Victims Directive, are applied accordingly in practice in the project countries Bulgaria, Finland, Germany, Romania, and Spain. The project was focused to promote cooperation among stakeholders, to exchange information concerning judicial practices, and to enhance the victim-centered approach by the justice system. Victims of crime deserve to have their needs and rights respected and fully understood by the legal professionals, as well as social and health specialists that have a direct contact with the target group. Institutions and organizations, as well as professionals, must be able to fully understand the impact of the crime on victims' mental health, the long-term effects that trauma has, and the way in which trauma influences the capacity of the victim to be further on involved in the criminal proceedings. Victims should be able to rely on an effective and inclusive justice system that can offer the necessary guarantees that the crime will not remain unpunished and that the victim will eventually have access to effective remedies. The main activities which were achieved in this project are the following ones. National reports with information concerning legislation and jurisprudence. Within these reports, we try to emphasize the challenges that still exist concerning victims' treatment by the justice system, insufficient access to legal information and assistance. From a legislative point of view, there are provisions concerning the protection of rights. However, the effective access to justice depends to a large degree on an available support services that victims should access. It is necessary to have better legal, social, and health services for victims that really function in practice for all types of victims. Further on, another activity which was achieved in our project was a publication consisting in a compendium of practices to support victims of crime. Certain practices which are mentioned in this publication refer to all types of victims, but we have also practices from our project countries which relate to certain type of victims, such as child victims, victims of gender-based violence, victims of human trafficking. The practices were actually collected covering an entire spectrum of criminal proceedings, from investigation phase, prosecution until court phase. The term practice, we use it in a general manner, and practically it includes programs, strategies, and services which were successfully implemented in Finland, Bulgaria, Spain, Germany, and Romania by different organizations, institutions, courts, prosecutors' offices, and so on. We believe that sharing practices can encourage further use of tested and effective methods that can be applied further on at local, regional, and national level. Because there is always a need to have a unified and coordinated response from stakeholders to victims who are involved as injured parties in the criminal proceedings. We also implemented several events, national and transnational ones, such as expert meetings, national group meetings, and roundtables. Due to the current situation generated by the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to implement these events online. However, we had an appropriate number of participants, more than 220 professionals from the legal, social, and health area, which jointly discuss about the relevance of multidisciplinary cooperation, about the importance of having better referral and assistance procedure for victims, and also the importance of trainings that should be focused on trauma for criminal justice professionals, because in practice, the number of trainings that address these issues, how to communicate with the victim, the impact of trauma, is still low comparing with the number of events that mainly address legal issues. We discussed also about the difficulties that practitioners encounter many times when they have to work with the victims, because we always believe that the input and the opinions of specialists are always relevant when we are trying to develop further solutions to improve rights protection and assistance. This year, we finalized a publication consisting in an action plan for developing victim-centered approach and trauma-informed criminal justice systems. All our publications, I would like to mention, are available in English, Romanian, Bulgarian, German, Finnish, and Spanish languages. And in this publication, we emphasize the fact that when it comes to the protection of victims, this aspect should be understood and achieved on multiple fronts: legislation, criminal proceedings, as well as society. As long as practitioners will consider the crime mostly a matter between the state and the offender, it will remain difficult for victims to have the important role that they deserve in the proceedings. This action plan is structured in 6 chapters, and it contains information concerning the importance of updating the legislation to ensure a victim-centered approach and trauma-informed approach, multidisciplinary cooperation and referral procedures, how access to information should be provided to victims, also the concept of psychological trauma and trauma-sensitive communication. And it contains also an example of curriculum for trainings on trauma for criminal justice professionals that can be used by institutions, organizations who would like to organize such events, not only from our countries involved in this project, but also from other countries from the European Union. In conclusion, I would like to mention that it is very important to give victims a voice in the justice system, and the level of victims' rights at the present moment is different from one country to another. Making sure that the European legislation is transposed at national level is a very important aspect. However, it is not enough to have the law. It's very important to apply the law correctly in practice. In other words, we need to ensure that victims' rights are accessible in practice across the entire territory of the European Union. More information about our project can be found on the project website, which is also mentioned on this slide, and also on our Facebook page. And I would like to invite all participants to access them. Thank you very much.